It is obvious now after a recent report from Arber Basu at The Athletic, Montreal's scouting plans for the later rounds in the draft have come to light with a very specific archetype of player, and one in particular from Red Deer has caught the eye of the Montreal Canadiens. This defense-first monster player could very well be a Montreal Canadien. Come a few weeks from now, we got to dive into the report on Matthew Gard, but also there's been a lot of talk surrounding Laine, Hutson, and his future contract extension with numbers thrown out from 10 to 12 million plus. Recent indications seem to be that there's a world where this contract does not get signed as soon as we would hope, plus some notes on some notable Habs showing up in award voting, all that coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. But before we get into it, guys, remember, we got daily Habs content every single day, all the way up to and including the draft and all summer long, and we are just 8 subscribers away from 21,000. So if you are enjoying the daily videos here on Habs Digest and you want to stay up to date, hit that free button down below. Help us hit that huge goal. Only 80 you need to do it. Jesse, let's dive into the video. Now, we're going to start with something I think a lot of people have had their fair share of talk, and, they've talked about this yesterday, but we got to talk about it here at least briefly. And it's not just Nick Suzuki getting that first place Hart Trophy vote, which is amazing from a Minnesota-based reporter nonetheless. This is unbelievable that he finished above McDavid, but, we heard a bit about that. But also, if you guys didn't catch it, our boy Monty picked up a third place Vezina vote, tying him for 8th place with Jake Ottinger and Dustin Wolf. Jesse, look, I know there's lots of people who are going to criticize the selections of Monty and Suzuki, all this stuff. Like, the 5th place votes definitely make a bit more sense for Suzuki, but he got a first and a second. What this is telling me is that reporters around the league are turning that corner on Montreal. We're getting almost like a crazy level of respect when it comes to these awards, and that bodes very well for the future.
Absolutely. Like Nick Suzuki getting top 10 and the lady being in the Selkie, we're going to assume, and also in the heart here, it's absolutely unreal. And like for Lady Bing and really for the Selkie, like you can almost look at it as being like that's going to be some top 5 sort of picks for him. Like he is just doing absolutely amazing and just showing why he is a rising star just in the NHL as a whole right now. And the best part about all of this, Josh, is like he's getting that recognition, but Nick Suzuki is that type of guy. He's getting that respect, but he can actually turn it on in those big moments when it really matters the most. It's like, Josh, like when we get in the playoffs, the way that Nick Suzuki was just so good down the stretch and putting the team on his back when they really needed to get those wins. It's just showing me like that this guy can perform under pressure. And when we get to that playoffs again, as soon as next year, I just feel like Nick Suzuki's going to be that type of clutch guy to really just take us through the rest of the way. Again, just to put like some context in all of this, like with our boy, like we're talking about the heart here.
Yeah.
And that our boy Nick's MVP of the league, and that Nick Suzuki's ranking above Connor McDavid, a Pasternak. We got Quinn Hughes, we got Kaprizov, Crosby, like the list goes on, but like he absolutely deserves it. Like he's getting into that 90-point type of range. Like he was so close, right? Like now the question, if you're getting in that 100-point territory, right? Like that's absolutely elite territory considering what he does on that defensive side of the puck. He does it all. He deserves the recognition. And we're here to kind of bring that Nick Suzuki hype for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know what helps even more? Winning some more games. Hey, look, I know some of the teams above, Washington was great. Columbus, they did finish below Montreal, of course, but Werenski had a historic season. The rest of these teams, hey, they're pretty good teams. So that's the next step in the Nick Suzuki hype train where he's going to start getting even more votes. Top 3 finishes. Cannot wait. Leave your hype for Suzuki. And also our boy Monty, who deserves some credit down below. We're going to move on, Jesse, to another guy that got some Norris votes. He won the Calder. He ran away with the Calder in Laine Hutson. Now, there's been a lot of talk recently about his extension. I mean, we've talked about it. We've seen you guys talking about it, and a lot of the streams were talking about it, different outlets talking about it. And there's been some recent stuff coming, I don't know if I want to say coming to light, but that has been discussed that makes it seem like this extension might end up costing us more than we anticipated, or at least not being done as early. And this just comes from a recent show that Arber Basu did, guest show on another podcast, saying, my assumption would be that Laine Hutson will only get better. I think from the Canadiens' point of view, they're kind of thinking, how much more can he possibly ask for than he would ask for now? And I thought this was a great point by Arber. It's like when you're Laine Hutson or you're Montreal, it's like, Laine could ask for the world right now. I mean, absolutely historic season. There's no doubt about it. Ran away with the Calder, breaking records left and right. This is the prime position to ask for, like, listen, give me all the money in the world, right? So if you're Montreal, waiting another season, assuming he doesn't hit that 66-point thing again, historically could be likely, right? Or Laine Hutson just outdoes himself again and waits till next year when the cap actually is going up. More and more contracts for comparable players are getting signed that's higher than the contracts that we're seeing now, Jesse. Do you think the longer we wait for Laine Hutson, the higher his price tag is going to be? Because my take is still that we're going to get this done this summer. I think Laine wants to get it done this summer. I have no inside source on that. But at the same time, like, you know, I know Kent Hughes is going to do exactly what's best for the team, but, you know, I do see a world where this maybe drags on longer than we first thought.
First thoughts is, you know, definitely pay the man, because I'd be surprised any year where we're not making the playoffs with Laine Hutson. We're going to look back, and he came in his rookie season, getting in the playoffs, and the way that this guy competes, but then also with his talent, like if he's able to be a big part of getting us there in his rookie year, I think that bodes really well going forward, that we're going to be a playoff team every single year that we got Hutson on our roster. We're getting into that competitive window. Obviously, there is other work that was done around that, but Hutson is the central figure of all this. And I would have to say that I do disagree with Arpin on this. I think if you wait, the price tag is going to go up a lot. You want to get it done this summer. I agree, Josh. Like, I think it's going to be done this summer, and I don't think that he's going to be asking that 12 million plus. Like, anybody who's saying that doesn't know Laine Hutson. He's a team first type of guy. Sure, it might get over slightly that 10 million range, but it's not going to be anything crazy, because Laine, he got the Calder. He wasn't even all that jazzed up for himself. He was just like, yeah, I more care about the team and us having that success. Like, that gives you a good kind of sightline on what's important to him, and he wants to be able to build around. So I think Kent is going to realize that. I think there's one guy, if you can kind of see like that consistent, that skill with what he's doing night in, night out, I'm not betting on that going away. In fact, I'm just expecting to get better with all that work ethic that he has. I think Kent Hughes knows that as well. That's why you're signing him as soon as possible. I think he's going to, you know, still maybe a high, like 9 plus, getting close to that 10 range. I think anywhere from the 9 to 10. But because he's such a team-friendly guy, I wouldn't even rule like a 9.8, 9.9 type of thing as well, because we know that this guy has his priorities on the right. This isn't the Leafs here. We're doing this team.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I would love that, right? And, you know, there seems to be a lot of camaraderie there on the post about Hutson winning the Calder. Caufield's like, hey, I can't believe I wasn't invited, joking, of course. I think the guys all love each other, and, like, you have to wonder, like, I don't imagine anyone's going to be upset if Laine takes more money, but also I imagine that, you know, the Habs will be like, hey, look, this is what our baseline is for these guys. How do you feel about getting a number closer to there? And again, with the culture, what the team plans to do in the future, what looks to be a winning franchise for years and years and years, sometimes players take pay cuts to go to those kind of teams. So let us know your thoughts on Laine Hutson down below. Do these recent developments kind of worry you? If Laine Hutson was to kind of wait on a contract, they maybe just say, hey, let's see what we can do this season. Is that a good thing, bad thing? We'd love to hear from you down below. And hey, while you're down there, before we get into the final topic, leave a like on the video too. We love when you guys do that. It really helps us out a lot. And leave a like for Nick Suzuki, for Laine Hutson, but also for Kent Hughes, because the draft is coming up and he needs all the likes and all the love that he can get, because we need to make some picks this year, even if we're not talking first round. Now, when we're looking at later round targets, there was a great piece by, again, Arpin Basu in The Athletic, which I will link down below. Again, please go read it if you're an Athletic subscriber. It's a fantastic read on a little bit of insight into what the Habs are planning. And the first thing I want to bring up here, Jesse, is a quote about a certain player, Jack Nesbitt. Now, I'll bring up his player card in a second, but he's not the guy we want to focus on today. But he did say, I think the Habs like how big I am. I use my size to play physical. I'll always fight if I have to, sticking up for teammates. I think they like the gritty part of my game, so we'll see if that transfers to the NHL, and that's fair. He's a 6'4" left shot center, 64 points in 65 games for the Windsor Spitfires this year, but he's probably not going to be available for the Habs pick. We're talking, you know, around like, you know, late first round, early second. It's not really where the Habs are picking, but as Arpin said, we've heard the Canadiens have shown a fair amount of interest in one player who might be right in that second round wheelhouse. Telling a story is more illustrative than predictive because he fits a certain type, the Canadiens type. His name is Matthew Guard, and Jesse, Matthew Guard, the stats don't jump off the page at you, right? 36 points in 66 games, but he had the most goals and most points on a bad Red Deer Rebels team this year. He is 6'5". He is pretty young, 18 years old in April, left-hand shot center, and he is a defensive stalwart. When we're talking about second, third round picks, we know the Habs like to get guys that fit their style. We saw we reached on Florian, paid off great. We love to get a guy like Tyler Thorpe, Owen Protz, these mid-round picks, second, third, fourth. This fits the bill. To me, a left shot center predicts as a gritty defensive bottom six guy. Jesse, I feel like he's got a point here. This guy, this name here is really, really interesting to me.
This I can definitely agree on. This is the archetype that the Habs are going for. Why? Because they already have that depth in their prospect pool. So now going for guys that have that high upside really, is really the kind of the move going forward, right? Like what they have already is kind of informing their decisions going forward. And I think that this is absolutely the type of player that you want to look for there. Again, kind of bringing a little bit of like a middle six type of guy, bringing that defense, an okay shot, but that's going to get a lot better as this guy continues to gain some size because he's growing so quickly. Like the amount of muscle that this guy's putting on just every single summer in the off season is huge there. So I think, a guy that can definitely play that middle six, but kind of rattle a few cages, but has some of that offensive upside. We're just like, Josh, isn't it such a common like theme this year of like size and then compete? Like, do you think that the Habs have the right strategy by going at it in this way? Or do you think that sometimes when you're just focused on like size, I do like how compete has been a main vein. I think like size without compete is almost like a mute point. Like, do you think that they're taking the right strategy? Or do you think that like you should still pay attention to the smaller guys for the upside for what it did with Hutson? Or do we got that already and that's why we're looking at the size? I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, so far my gut would just be, hey, the right strategy is whatever Ken Hughes and our scouting department is doing, because it's worked pretty well so far. But
it's working.
Yeah, I mean, it's working. But in general, like, it's interesting, right? Because I think drafting a diverse set of players is also important, right? And not focusing too much on one type. And the Habs have been doing that. Again, we got Laine Hutson. We also got a smaller guy, skinnier and Atos Koivu. But in that same draft, we went and got a huge guy like Tyler Thorpe, an enforcers type style defenseman with Owen Protz. And I think that the Habs definitely take a liking to a lot of these big guys who project to be these gritty, like bottom 6 level guys in the NHL in the later rounds. And I think that works very well. Now, yes, you could shoot for the stars, try to get another star player in the second, like a Laine Hutson, whatever. But if you're focusing on this type of player, I think like, again, the likelihood they become a star is a lot, lower. But again, with a guy like this is a quick riser. His progression from last year to this year has been pretty insane. Doubled his points in only 11 more games, almost tripled his goal total. Like, that's not negligible. And look, he's 6 for 5, 192, knows how to use it along the boards, in front of the net. Most of his goals were in front of the net, Jesse, and his motor. Like, this dude has I think it's less about the size and more about how I think they fit with Montreal. We know with Matthew Gard, from what we read on him, very high hockey IQ, very high motor. And to me, those are two of the things, too, that I think the Canadiens really like to look at, whether it's Florian Xhekaj, again, Tyler Thorpe. One of the reasons they might not draft a Lyndon Lakovich there in that first round. So I think it's a combination of those things. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. And I do like how like the compete is coming up in all of this. Funny how, right, like Hutson, that's kind of one of the things that defines him. Is like that's the strongest points of his game. It was looked at as a weak point somehow in the draft year. It got missed a little bit, at least maybe by some people. But like this is what allowed him to really be so successful. So I think, definitely there's a much higher chance of like once you already have those smaller guys that have panned out and end up, definitely found money there with Laine Hutson, much more probability of going with somebody bigger, a little bit more raw, but the chance that they can kind of get into something workable into that NHL level. That being said, like Kent Hughes, the analytics team, they've all really stepped it up so much, and that's really bearing some tangible fruit for this team. So you have to expect that they're doing that homework, and that's really going to continue to get us to the best possible players, Josh. But like they've been doing an amazing job so far. And I think that that's probably the big difference with the Montreal Canadiens going forward of what's going to separate them from a lot of the parity that we're seeing in the league right now.
I completely agree. And again, a lot of these traits that these guys have is conducive to success, right? Like this high effort, high motor drive to get better. That's what makes Florian better. It's what makes so many of these guys that we have better. Ivan Demidov, Laine Hutson, these guys staying on the ice all off season. Like, it's unbelievable. But listen, leave your thoughts down below. Is this the right strategy? Not the right strategy? What do you think about this type of player? Not even just guard in particular, but this type of guy in the second round. We'd love to hear from you. That'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on the way out, guys. 8 away from 21,000. Thank you so much to all of you for tuning in every single day. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.